Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 37. The main event is Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction of that fight. If you guys ever want to see my main event prediction record, I put it in the description so you guys can always go check that out. But let's talk about the UFC Vegas 37 card as a whole because it leaves a lot to be desired. The main event between Anthony Smith and Ryan Spann is okay, but I just feel like the UFC could have done better. And as far as notable fights on the card, there's not that many. I just wish the UFC would put together a better fight night card, or they could have just shifted some of these fights on the UFC 266. But again, we have quite a few stacked fight cards coming up, so I'm not going to complain too much. So let's talk about Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. Anthony Smith is currently ranked number 6. Ryan Spann is currently ranked number 11 in the UFC official rankings. So this is a bit of a step up for Ryan Spann here. He has not fought anyone of Anthony Smith's caliber yet, but he's finally getting that chance. So Anthony Smith, when you think of Anthony Smith, the first thing you think of is this guy has incredible heart, he's incredibly durable, and he has very good stamina. There's been so many fights, and I'm going to go through some of the fights that he's had throughout his UFC career. But there's been many fights where you count him out, and somehow Anthony Smith finds a way to come back and win the fight. In the late rounds, time after time. Smith used to be a middleweight. He decided to move up to light heavyweight after losing to Thiago Santos, which, if you think about it, that's really not a bad loss to have on your record. Thiago Santos is an absolute savage. He's on a bit of a losing streak right now ever since he tore both of his knees up in the John Jones fight. But either way, Thiago Santos is a quality opponent. When you lose to him, and that's a common theme throughout Anthony Smith's entire resume, his losses are against quality opponents. And I feel like Anthony Smith gets shit on quite a bit. Oh, he sucks. He's this, he's that. But you look at his resume, his UFC career in general, and you look at some of the losses, they have been against high caliber guys. So first off, let's go through some of the fights. Back in 2017, he fought Hector Lombard. He was losing that fight. He comes back in the third round and stops Hector Lombard. He then has the loss to Thiago Santos. After that loss, he decides, I'm moving up to light heavyweight, and that's when he starts to find his most success. He finishes Rashad Evans, but Rashad Evans at that point in time was really on his way out the door. I don't really think either of these next two wins were all that great for Anthony Smith. Rashad Evans, again, basically leaving the UFC at that point. He finishes him. He then goes on to finish Shogun Rua, who's an absolute legend. But again, not in the best point in his career. So he's kind of just killing off UFC legends at this point and former UFC light heavyweight champions. Then he goes on to fight Volkan Ozdemir. And Volkan Ozdemir is a very, very tough opponent. And he lost the majority of that fight. And eventually, Ozdemir started to fade. And somehow Anthony Smith gets the takedown and he gets the submission in the third round. It's just a common theme for Anthony Smith. Somehow he just finds the will to continue on when he's losing a fight. And to come back and beat Volkan Ozdemir in the third round was a spectacular performance. I give him all the credit in the world. And you guys have heard me talk about it on my channel quite a bit. There are guys who begin to lose fights and they can sense the writing is on the wall and they pack it in. They don't even really try anymore. They just kind of, either survive to a decision or eventually give up their neck and get submitted, whatever may happen. Anthony Smith will never be one of those guys. This guy never quits no matter how bad the fight gets. His next fight was a light heavyweight title shot against John Jones. And this is a prime example of, again, losing to high quality competition. John Jones, considered the greatest light heavyweight of all time. He goes all the way to the decision with John Jones. And remember me talking about Anthony Smith never quits in a fight. This guy got illegally kneed by John Jones. He could have not continued. He knew it. And he could have walked out of there with the light heavyweight championship, similar to Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan. But he decided, no, I'm not doing that. He continued on the fight. He survives to a decision. He was dominated for the most part by John Jones. He had nothing to offer for John Jones. But John Jones, obviously one of the greatest of all time. There's no denying that. And Anthony Smith, people want to say he's terrible, but to go to a decision with John Jones, it doesn't mean as much anymore. But at that point in time, he was stopping guys like Gustafsson and all these different guys he had stoppages over. And the fact that Anthony Smith, a lot of people going into that title fight didn't think he deserved a title shot. They said, he's beat a bunch of has-beens, blah, blah, blah. This was the narrative going in. And the fact that he survived all the way to a decision and did not take the easy way out when he got illegally kneed, he got a lot of respect from a lot of people. His next fight was against Alexander Gustafsson. So again, another, elite light heavyweight. He beats Gustafsson. He was losing a lot of that fight too, and he came back in the fourth round. And I don't remember every second of that fight. It's, I'm just looking back on that one. I didn't rewatch that one in anticipation of this pre-fight. But he was losing a decent amount of that fight. He ends up submitting Gustafsson in the fourth round. Another late stoppage win for Anthony Smith. Great performance. Just showed his heart yet again. His next fight was against Glover Teixeira. And this fight was so brutal. Glover Teixeira just took him down and ground and pounded him and just bludgeoned him. And it was so brutal. A lot of people gave Anthony Smith's corner a lot of shit for not throwing in the towel. That doesn't happen too much in MMA. And I believe it was justified. I believe they probably should have stopped the fight. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it, but he was getting beat up that badly. That's the point I'm getting to. And look where Glover Teixeira is today. He's going to fight, Jan Blachowicz in October for the light heavyweight title. Glover Teixeira fought in 2014 against John Jones for the light heavyweight title. So this is another elite light heavyweight. He loses to him, utter domination for the most part. And he takes another highly, touted opponent in Alexander Rakic. And Rakic, in my opinion, is the future of the light heavyweight division. He's super well-rounded. He's very big. Rakic was able to come in, take Anthony Smith down, really ground and pound him and brutalize him. He eventually wins via decision. It wasn't like a crazy dominant performance. But if I remember correctly, Rakic won all 3 rounds of that fight and just was able to take Anthony Smith down with ease. And that's a common theme with Anthony Smith. He doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. Then he goes on to fight Devin Clark, a little bit of a step back in competition. And if you think about it, John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira, Alexander Rakic, all in 4 fights in a row. That's a great little streak of names. Great top-level talent. He fights Devin Clark. Devin Clark takes him down. He ends up submitting Devin Clark in the first round via triangle, which I was very happy to see Anthony Smith get a win without taking any significant amount of damage. So it was great to see that fight. Then he fights Jimmy Crute. And I feel like the UFC was almost trying to feed Anthony Smith to this up-and-coming prospect. A lot of people were picking Jimmy Crute in this fight. I personally went with Anthony Smith. I thought, Jimmy Crute has not fought elite-level competition yet. He looks good. But until we see him against elite level competition, I can't pick him against Anthony Smith, who just never goes away. So he jabs Jimmy Crute's face off in the fight. He ends up kicking the leg so hard at the end of the first round that it hits that nerve behind the knee, gets drop foot, and he cannot continue. The doctor stopped the fight. But I really believe Anthony Smith was on the route to winning that fight. That was back in April at UFC 261. He took some decent shots from Crute, and Anthony Smith's not a guy that gets KO'd. He's taken huge shots from Glover Teixeira, huge shots from Alexander Rakic, an illegal knee from John Jones. It's not like this guy gets finished often at all. And he ate some shots from Jimmy Crute. He survived. He took some heavy leg kicks from Jimmy Crute, but he was able, I believe he was winning that first round. He was jabbing his face off. It was a nice stiff jab from Anthony Smith, and he wins that fight. So now he's on a 2-fight win streak, and he's going to fight Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann currently ranked number 11 in the UFC rankings. And Ryan Spann looks like a massive light heavyweight. Honestly, he looks like he could be in the heavyweight division. If you just look at him compared to some of his other opponents, he's humongous. He has a 1-inch height advantage on Anthony Smith, and he also has a 5.5-inch reach advantage on Anthony Smith. So I'm curious if that comes into play for this fight. If you look over Ryan Spann's career, and Ryan Spann is a guy who has like first-round knockout power. He was able to KO Nogueira in the first round, but how much does that really mean? Let's actually go over his resume. He came in on the Contender Series. He lost against Carl Robinson. He went back, won a couple fights at LFA, came back to the Contender Series again, got a beautiful guillotine submission win. He rocked the guy. Then the guy shot in on a takedown. He locked up the guillotine. Then he goes on to win a couple fights against some relatively unknown names. He finishes Nogueira. Obviously, that's probably his best win in his career, in my opinion. It's hard to say. He fights Devin Clark, submits him. We know Devin Clark has some submission issues. He goes on to fight Sam Alvey to a split decision. And this fight was horrible. And Sam Alvey's so sloppy on the feet. And it's just, I feel like a guy like Ryan Spann, who just looks super athletic. He's very big. I feel like he could have put a more of a statement win against Sam Alvey, but he wins by a split decision. Then he goes on to fight Johnny Walker. And a lot of people thought that Johnny Walker was the next, John Jones. He was going to contend for the light heavyweight title. And, Johnny Walker at this point had lost some of his hype. He goes in against Johnny Walker. He almost stops Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker somehow survives and ends up stopping Ryan Spann in that fight. Then he goes on to fight Misha Cirkunov, and he gets a win via first round TKO. In my opinion, this is not all that impressive. It's an okay win, and that's where he's at now. That's his most recent fight, and that was in March of this year. Cirkunov is not a really elite guy, and I think that's where you look at both their resumes, and there's not a lot of high-caliber guys on Ryan Spann's resume. I mean, if you really wanted to pick out the best guy that he's won a fight against, it's probably Nogueira. And how old was Nogueira even in 2019? A very old guy. And I feel like a lot of these guys he has size advantages on, and he just doesn't have the resume. And you guys will hear that in a lot of my prediction videos. I cannot, not point out that this resume just leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, so how do I think this fight is going to go down? My prediction is Anthony Smith via third round submission. I just think that Ryan Spann does have some good power, and I think there's a chance he could get a knockout in the first round if all that damage that Anthony Smith has taken over the course of his career catches up to him. But I just don't think that's going to happen. Anthony Smith has shown time and time again he's super durable. Anthony Smith's one real weakness is his takedown defense. And I just don't know if Ryan Spann's going to come in and really try to wrestle him and just hold him down. And even if he does, Anthony Smith has shown great jiu-jitsu off his back, and he has a great submission ability. There's a chance, even if Ryan Spann comes in, let's say he takes him down the first round, takes him down the second round, he's going to start to get tired because Ryan Spann has nowhere near the amount of experience that Anthony Smith does. Anthony Smith has over 50 pro MMA fights. Ryan Spann has about 25, I believe. And you look at that experience, Anthony Smith has fought many of 5-round fights. In the John Jones fight, that went all 5 rounds. I think there was a couple other 5-round fights as well. Even so, he's gone into the 4th round in many fights as well. Anthony Smith is just a guy that shows that he can go, 4 or 5 rounds in a fight and still have the gas tank to pull off a finish. I think Ryan Spann really has to knock him out early. I think Anthony Smith can win many of ways. I think he's the more technical fighter. I think he has the better jiu-jitsu. And even so, Ryan Spann has a takedown defense weakness as well. He was taken down by Devin Clark. We've just seen him be taken down by multiple guys in the past. And I really think there's a chance Anthony Smith could take him down and submit him. So I just really don't see any way for Ryan Spann to win this fight other than a first-round KO. I think Anthony Smith is just too experienced, too durable, has too much heart, has too much stamina, is too technical. I mean, he was jabbing Jimmy Crute's face off. And also he showed in that fight he had good footwork. He was light on his feet. He was moving around the cage. And Ryan Spann is like a bigger guy. He just plots forward. He's very flat-footed. And I think Anthony Smith can, expose him via leg kicks as well. Anthony Smith shows that he has nasty, heavy leg kicks. He doesn't use them very often. But when he does use them, obviously they were effective, at least in the Jimmy Crute fight. So I really think, if I had to predict an exact way this fight goes down, I think it's kind of competitive the first 2 rounds. I think Anthony Smith's chopping the legs. I think Anthony Smith's jabbing his face off. And I think eventually Ryan Spann starts to wear down. I think Anthony Smith shoots for a takedown, takes him down in the scramble, locks up a rear naked choke, and finishes him in the 3rd round. But comment your prediction down below. Do you guys think Anthony Smith's going to win? Do you think Ryan Spann's going to win? If you guys enjoy these prediction videos, make sure to like the video. It really helps support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.